So, hi everyone. Today I'm going to be in conversation with Carrie Martins, and we're going to be talking about partnering and partnering in virtual exchange. And she's going to talk to us a bit about how she's used the partnering tool on the UNICollaboration website. But before we get stuck in, Carrie, please introduce yourself and tell us which institution you're at and what your role is.
Sure. Thank you so much, Lorenza. Thanks for having me. And so I serve as coordinator of faculty development initiatives in the Office of Global Learning at the University of Florida in the United States. Part of that role, part of the Global Learning Initiative that I oversee and support is virtual exchange and COIL. And I've been in the role for a little over 3 years.
Okay. Thank you for your time and thanks for talking to us. Um, Carrie, we've noticed you have used the partnering tool on the UNICollaboration website. So how helpful has it been for you and your work?
Yes, I have used it quite a bit, ever since I started basically in this role, and I found it really helpful because just in general, I think that the partnering platforms offered through international virtual exchange networks are a really important resource for the COIL virtual exchange community because they allow you to advertise to a wider audience and perhaps a new audience. So obviously they're particularly important when you're trying to get started as an institution or a professor, grow your network. But even later on, once you have many contacts established, it's still amazing to have these resources where suddenly you can make a connection that you never would have thought of or found on your own. And it's wonderful to be able to keep growing our networks and making those creative connections. So I think that that is a huge benefit.
Mm.
Um, and I
How
could
efficient is it though, Carrie? I mean, I'm sure it's not perfect. I'm sure there've been some challenges in how you've used it. Tell us a bit more about what happens.
Sure. Well, I'll maybe mention like a success story and maybe like
Let's do the
just
positive
to
first, shall we?
yeah. So, I mean, for example, I had a very successful experience where, I made a post and an instructor reached out and we were able to move forward with the collaboration, which, just as I was saying, actually was a very creative, interdisciplinary one, focused around sustainability and health. And, the project has now been implemented multiple times and just
Oh.
worked out wonderfully. And so I think you come across these perfect matches in different places, and so that's, like I was saying, really the beauty of working with these platforms because you never know what is going to come out after all of the initial discussions and contacts and things. I think one thing that, to your point of like what could maybe be improved, and I would imagine that many partnering platforms struggle with to a certain extent, is the amount of traffic that the platform gets.
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes a very long time to hear from anyone, or if you go on, you might not find necessarily like, oh, there's already a proposal that matches very well what I'm looking for, just because of the volume of proposals that are there. So I think that's something that is just kind of a matter of maybe something that indirectly union collaboration could influence, but also really a matter of time, right? As the field is growing and that kind of thing.
Mm.
And also, as we know too, some institutions have, for instance, someone in a COIL virtual exchange coordinator role, like I do, which is
Yeah.
wonderful because then we have a little more time to spend posting these things. But not all institutions do, and there's only so much individual professors can do. So, you know,
True.
it's one of those things that I feel like we're all working toward together, is trying to trying to help each other make these connections and trying to get the word out.
That's really helpful to know, Carrie. Thank you. You also mentioned when we had our chat before that you attend we twice a year we do partnering fairs where we host an event online and invite lecturers or teachers, admin staff to come and attend. So what do you have a strategy behind how you use the tool and you've attended the partnering fair? How does that work in tandem, hand in hand?
Oh, certainly. I think that both are wonderful resources, and especially because the partnering fair kind of meets that need I was just describing, right? If you're stuck with a proposal for a really long time you haven't found a partner for, there at the partnering fair, both from the registration list and the fair itself, you have, I think, a much better chance of finding that match because of the magnitude of the list of registration, but also at the fair itself, like this past fair I attended, I noticed that it was extremely useful to be able to hear from people in more detail about what they were looking for and
Mhm.
what their course was about, and found that, there were people who I probably wouldn't have reached out to from the list because I wasn't seeing, the
Yeah,
connection, but from the conversation and what they were saying in the fair, I was, then able to say, oh, actually,
piqued
that
your
could work.
curiosity. Yeah.
And so we went ahead, with those conversations that way. So I think that they all are very useful. Um, it just depends what your
Mhm.
schedule allows time for. But scheduling timing, obviously the partnering fairs are, I believe you mentioned, twice a year typically. And so obviously during the rest of the year, it's extremely helpful to have the partnering tool to be able to put courses up, and I think many of us are kind of used to it taking some time to find these matches at this point. I
Yes.
know I always tell professors that, like, this could take months.
I was
Um,
going to ask that. It's not an immediate fix, is it? But it's a start. Yes, I mentioned we do them in June and December, the partnering fairs. Would you recommend that Uni Collaboration do them more often, or is twice a year enough, do you think?
oh, that's a very good question. Um, I
Ask to
mean,
know because we could, yeah, we do a summer and a winter, but if it's useful to do more, that is something we can think about.
right. I definitely think summer is a wonderful time to do this. Um, I would definitely not do less than twice a year because then I feel like we'd be missing for sure. I think you could try 3 times a year. If you go too frequently, right, then you run into, for example, now like many people are starting their semesters, and
Not
it would
great.
just be hard to get enough attention. But I think it's possible you could try that because it really is extremely useful. I mean, I'm already looking forward to the next one.
Okay. So in terms of, for example, uni collaboration training, or you have, I know you have training at the University of Florida as well as a result of initiating training at uni collaboration. But would you say what impact does training, partnering fair, and partnering tool have on the impact of a virtual exchange?
Yeah, I think that those, in my opinion, are really the key resources, for professors, institutions at any phase of virtual exchange. Because for example, whether it's like an individual professor who doesn't yet have an initiative at their institution, or an institution that's trying to build their initiative, I feel like those are kind of the things that you need to the building blocks to get started. Of course, later you might want to develop more resources and things, but without those two pieces, the training and the being able to find a partner, it's really much more challenging to get
Mm.
started. So yeah, those are wonderful resources to have.
That leads me into asking you, where else have you managed to find partners? Do you have other
Sure.
ways?
Yeah, I do think that it's ideal. And again, if you have time, to be posting in so many places and such, to post your proposals as many places as possible, because as I was saying at the very beginning, you don't know what's going to end up working out. And so some of the tools that I use, COIL Connect for virtual exchange is another one that I use frequently. I also use my own,
Your
institutional
network?
contact list
Mm.
that I've developed over time. And I also kind of keep an eye out for other opportunities, sometimes through like the Latin American COIL network, for instance. There might be, people sharing things, or training and partnering opportunities, partnering fairs, etc. So those types of things are really useful too. But
Mm.
probably the two standard ones that I would post on are UNICollaboration and the COIL Connect for virtual exchange.
Before I let you go, Carrie, and get on with your day, is there anything you'd like to say about partnering and partnering tools? Anything that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share?
I think, maybe just one thing that I think is really helpful is, because I know that it takes time and it's really challenging to keep up with, but, um, trying to keep up as much as possible with these proposals, like keep them updated and such, is extremely useful, just in general for all of us. And I know it's not easy, but sometimes it's, for instance, like there might be something on the site where, I see the dates have passed, but it's still seeking. And you're at that like, do I reach out to them? Is it worthwhile? That kind of thing. And so, if you're able to keep it going, I think it helps even yourself, because then if you are in fact seeking, it gives you more likelihood that people are going to reach out. So that's just like a tip that I would give for those who have the time and bandwidth to try and keep an eye on that. I think it improves greatly your chances of having someone reach out and being able to find the right match if you can keep those sorts of things updated.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for your time. So to all the viewers, keep your proposals updated. You never know what's going to happen.